Alright guys, I am going to go really quickly through this one. This should be a review of stuff we've done in the past. I know it's been a long time, so let's talk about this. But again, you have already done this in the past. Okay, so on this one right here, if you remember, if you have something in vertex form, which I feel like we talked about this many times, and remember this A represents a number right here, that would tell you if is stretch or shrink. And by the way, if you read this, if you would do me a favor and read that, what basically that means is going to stretch if this number is over 1, like 3 or 4 or 5. Now it's going to shrink if this number is less than 1. Now it's actually less than the absolute value of 1. So if you have a half, a 1/3, a 1/4, anything like that, then it's going to shrink. Okay, so that's the only difference. Now this number right here, we talked about it many times. This is going to move this left or right. Right, left or right. And remember that x is a liar, so if it has a minus, you're going to move to the right. If it has a plus, you're going to move to the left. And finally this k, which again, k is just some number, that's just going to move you up or down. Now there's nothing tricky about this last number. Whatever it says, that's what you're going to do. If it says +5, then you're going to move the parabola up 5. But if it has, say, -2, then you're going to move the parabola down 2. So let me just do a few of these. For example, on this one right here, this 1/2, because this number right here is less than 1, the absolute value of this is less than 1, then this is actually going to shrink. So it's actually asking you to describe the following. So you're going to say, well, this is going to shrink by a factor of a half. And now this is -1, which means you're going to move to the right. Remember, this is the opposite of what you think. So this is going to be to the right 1 and right 1. Now to be precise, this is actually talking about the vertex, all right? This number and whatever number comes after that is talking about the vertex. Now, there is no plus anything here, which we can only assume is a +0, so that means we're not moving up or down, so we're actually finished here. Now, on this one right here, that may look different, but it's basically the same problem as having something like this, 2x + 0 squared + 1. So if you see something like this, that's how it works. So on this one, because this number in front of the x squared is bigger than 1, then that actually means that this is stretching. And that's the only reason it's stretching, is because this number right here, number 2, is bigger than number 1. So stretch by a factor of 2. And up 1. It's not moving left or right. It's not. Now, if you just looked at it like that, this is not moving left or right. That would have to have a parentheses like that with some other number other than 0. All right, finally we'll do 4 real quick. Now, remember that this negative right here means that it's being reflected over the x-axis. Now, reflect over x-axis. Okay, that's one thing that happened. Now, because that number, this 3, now I know you're looking at it, you're saying -3 is less than 1. Well, the absolute value of -3 is more than 1. So if you don't understand that, that's okay. But again, 3 is bigger than 1. Okay, so because 3 is bigger than 1, that's going to stretch by a factor of 3. Let's see, and then this -4, well, that's going to move it to the right 4. Remember, that's the opposite. It says -4, but we're going to move to the right 4. Right 4 and up 2. Now, the up 2 came from this number right here. Okay, so that's that. As far as the rest of these, we'll do, let's see, we'll just do one of these. Now, right here, we're actually going backwards. We're actually trying to write an equation for this one. Now, this one says shrink by a factor of a third. Now, remember that it only says shrink because 1/3 is less than 1. So y is equal to 1/3. Now all of these are going to be quadratic, all right? So Keep that in mind. So y is equal to 1/3. Now reflect across the x-axis means that this was negative, right? So I'm going to come back here and put a little negative there. Shift to the right 7, so I'm going to write x minus 7 squared. Right, remember that this is only a minus 7. This is the opposite of what you think. And this one says down 3. Okay, so we're going to subtract 3. So on this first few problems, that's what you're going to do. And finally, the stuff that's a little bit new is problems like number 9 and 10. I'll do both of those. So number 9, if you have this equation and you're trying to translate it, meaning you're trying to move this parabola, hopefully it looks like a parabola, up 4 and to the left 2, how would this equation be changed? Okay, so this is actually very simple. What you're going to do here, and I'm going to rewrite this equation. What I'm going to do here is what's really going to happen is because I'm moving it up 4 units, that's actually going to add 4 to this one right here. Okay, and it wants to move left. Now remember that everything's opposite here. So if I want to move left, I'm actually going to move to the right. So I'm actually going to add 2 to this one. So that's the part that's a little bit weird. It says left, but I'm adding 2. Strange, but that's the way it works. Okay, so how that's going to change? Well, all you have to do is add those. So we have x plus 4 squared, and this one's going to be plus 3. And that's that. Okay, so this would be your answer right here. You can see that? That's x plus 4 squared plus 3. Now, on this next one, okay, same thing. We have y is equal to, well, let's see, 4 units, right 4 units, and up 2 units, okay? So if I'm trying to shift this equation, all right, what I'm going to do, instead of writing it just like this, because I know I'm going to have to move it to the right 4, is I'm actually going to write it x plus 0 squared plus 3, and that's going to make my life a whole lot simpler. All right, so remember that to write to the right 4 units, I'm actually going to write minus 4. Okay, the opposite of that. Now on this one, up 2, well, that one's easy. I'm just going to write a plus 2 right there. So all I'm adding right here is I'm adding 0 minus 4, which is going to be x minus 4 squared. And I'm going to add 3 and 2, which is 5. Alright, if you got any questions, make sure and check the key. I give the key to the sub. We'll see you hopefully next week, but we have one more lesson to go through.